And we letting everybody know who got a dream. Yo, stay focused. Keep moving forward. It's on the way. Keep that dream alive. If you got a dream, don't look to the left, nor the right, nor the wrong.
Your faith is in Jesus. Completion is here before you even begin. Dreaming big of my life in the future. Already knowing that it's not far. Having the passion to work towards Jesus. I'm gonna keep my faith and swagger going hard. Don't do the right. Just push straight. You don't have to fear more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Yolanda Jerry Show. I am your host, Yolanda, and I'm excited about our special guest that we're going to have on tonight. This lady has a powerful story that I know that's going to just not touch my heart, but I'm sure everyone who's going to be listening and watching tonight. So I want to say, if you're tuning in, bring a friend, bring a cousin, bring a sister, a brother. It doesn't matter. Tag them into this broadcast and also share it out. Also on all your platforms that you have, because we want to make sure that everybody gets their soul fed tonight. So again, share this broadcast and we will be right back.
Welcome to the Dr. Yolanda Jerry Show, where you will hear stories from people who have experienced hell on earth and have walked past hell to share their stories. You will also hear what they are doing now and how their businesses, nonprofits, and ministries were birthed from their past trauma. So let's empower the world, one story at a time. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Yolanda Jerry.
And we are back. Welcome back. So tonight, I want to tell you that our special guest is none other than the Dr. Constance Craig-Mason. She is the CEO of Concierge Financial Advisory and co-founder of the R.E.A.L Connected Company. As a dedicated financial advisor, passionate international speaker, and a 7-time best-selling author, she teaches her clients to manage their money so they can live the life they want without worrying about money. All right. And then on top of that, she has numerous awards for community impact, including a medallion in recognition of excellence, service, and sacrifice from the Comptroller of Maryland, and an honorary doctorate of philosophy for her eminent contributions to financial literacy, financial advancement, and entrepreneurship empowerment within the community. So look, we're going to bring Dr. Constance onto the screen so you all can see this beautiful woman. Look, I've known her for a little while, and she's doing some amazing things and impacting many people around the globe, especially when it comes to finances. Look, I don't know about y'all, but we can never know enough about how to manage our money, what to do with our money, and how to spend it, how to keep it, and whatever else we need to do with our money. So I'm going to bring this lady to the screen. Hello, Dr. Constance. How are you?
Hi, Dr. Yolanda. I am well.
That is good. That is good. I know that you had mentioned earlier before we came on that you was experiencing some weather issues, which is messing with your internet. But you know what? We know we're going to continue to push through as much as we can, because we going to need this information that you got to share with us tonight. So I want to give a shout out to Paula Favre and Sandy Sanders. Thank you all so much for tuning in, and everybody that's coming in right now. So Dr. Constance, I just gave you a professional short bio, but I always like to start my show with asking my guests, can you tell us a little bit more about who you are, where you grew up at, and a little bit about your childhood, if you choose to share that too as well?
Thank you, Dr. Yolanda. Well, I am a child of God. Firstly, my Savior is everything to me, and I'm also married. I am a wife of almost 17 years. I am a mom of 4 adult children, and I have 2 grandchildren, ages 6 and 2, and I have 2 grandbuns on the way. Listen, I'm gonna have 4 grandbabies by the time I'm 43. They need to slow their butts down, but listen, okay, I'm super excited about it. I grew up in the inner city of Baltimore, Maryland, and I always like to tell the story of my mom, right? So my mom had 2 little baby girls by the time she was 17. And that is like the epitome of babies raising babies, as they say. We didn't have a lot of money or resources, but we definitely had a lot of love. I watched my mom. She was my first example of what resilience looked like. I didn't know that that was a thing or that's what it was called, but I often saw her get knocked down and get back up, get knocked down and get back up. And she would often tell us, I want you to be better than me. I want you to shoot for the stars. And, we took that in, but we were like, well, what's better than you? Right? What's better than my mama? And, we just watched her stretch a penny. We watched her with tears streaming down her face somehow figure it out through the grace of God. And even though it was kind of an unspoken thing that we learned from this strong Black woman, in the inner city of Baltimore, and not having a lot of resources or support, we were able to look to her to see how to model what resilience looks like. And so I often share that even though I was introverted as a child, of course, I did not see myself on any stages or even in the sales field. I thought I was going to be an artist or architect because I have that creative mindset as well as an analytical mindset. But I often would be the person in the room that would often go unnoticed. And I was quite comfortable in that space. It's like the be seen and not heard. And even though we would hear that in terms of like a behavioral thing, right? They would tell us not to be too mouthy or not to be in grown folks' business. But I kind of adopted that. I'm in this space, but I'm not significant. I could be here or not be here, and that would just be fine with me. And that thing lingered for many, many years. I want to say into my 30s, actually, where I knew that there was a lot that I was observing about my environment, my family, at school, in certain workplaces. I knew that being quiet and being able to observe things did teach me a lot about life. It's that thing that you don't learn in the academic books at school. You learn human behavior, you learn body language, you learn, relationship stuff from people in the space of who's actually thriving and who's upset and who is insecure. And you kind of see and feel all of that. I am definitely an empath. So I am someone who feels everything from everyone. And I didn't know that that was a thing either. And so there came a time where I really had to seek out my own self-awareness in order to be like, well, who am I really? I learned from an early age what God had said about me, from going to church in my early teens and trying to figure out life. And it was something different than what I had seen. Reading the words jumping off of the biblical pages was unlike anything I had ever heard about, anything that anybody had ever spoken into me. And so I was like, well, wow, if God said that I'm the head and not the tail, that I'm above and not beneath, I'm more than a conqueror. Like, these are things that even though our family meant well, they might not have been able to speak life in that way. And so as I'm reading these words on the page, it is in stark contrast to what my life looks like in the inner city of Baltimore. And so I'm like, well, if he says that I am all these magnificent things, then how do I align myself with what the word says? And I actually had a bunch of female elders in the church. And I would often look to them because I had these young babies, sitting on my lap, sitting in a stroller. And I would be super frustrated. Like I would go to church looking to be enlightened, to learn and grow. But then, of course, you have these little babies and they're making noise and they're on the floor and they're dropping stuff. And I'm just super distracted and getting frustrated because I'm like, God, do you not see me? Like, do you not see what it took for me to walk to this church and bring these babies in here with me, looking to you for whatever it is that these ladies say that you have that's going to turn my life around? And I can't even hear 2 sentences that the pastor is sitting up here trying to convey because I got to pick up bottles and tell you to stop and get you up from all. And I was so frustrated, but I didn't stop coming. And the women would love on me, hug on me, and occasionally they would take the babies from me and take them into the back and give me a refuge, and that is what I needed as a young single mom. I was like, listen, I'm not running the streets. I'm not doing terrible things. I'm trying to find out who I am in terms of what God says my identity is. And if I can't hear that, then why am I here? Right? That frustration from these single moms who are really just trying to figure it out until they find their, power mate or the destiny mate that God has for them. We still have to be the example for our kids. And if we are broken, if we are broke, busted, and disgusted, if we are traumatized, that thing is going to spill over into our kids. And then that is going to spill over into the environments and the people that they engage with. So I was super self-aware that I was responsible, right, for my kids. But I also wanted to take it a step further and not just pay the bills and not just send them to daycare and school. I wanted to be someone that they could look up to and be proud of. And I hadn't the slightest idea how that was going to happen. But I knew that these elder women who were so peaceful and so calm and so joyful, I was like, how do you get that? I wasn't talking about no money. I was like, how do you get that joy, that peace, right? It was all over them. And I just kept coming. And I got saved at 19 and never turned back since.
Wow. Powerful to know that, even though your mom was trying to, she did what she had to do, right? And she, a lot of times you'll hear people say that, you work with what you have. And you only can do as much as you are knowledgeable of. And so, at that time, your mom did the best she could. But then you got these elder women who came in and it's just like, man, now this is something totally different, something that I wasn't used to. And like, I want a little bit of that. How do I get that? So that's good that you had some, your mom was there. She gave you what she had. And then you had those elder women, they were able to show you another side and embrace you. And just give you what you needed at the time. So Dr. Constance, I want to ask, even though you had these elder women in your life and you had your mom, and they showed you different things, I know that in life, we all go through something, right? We all go through something in life. It's just a matter, God has already had this plan laid out, but he wouldn't put more on us than we can bear. But what was that trying time for you in your life that you remember, that pretty much knocked you to your feet? And it was just like, I don't know if I can handle anymore, what was that like for you? Share that with us, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I definitely don't mind. There was some very traumatic things that went on in my young life. And it started when I was witnessing what my mom was going through. So she was going through domestic violence, with her husband, who she had thought that he was going to be, something that we absolutely loved and adored, because she was like, listen, I want to create this stable home life for my girls. She did not grow up with a stable home life. And so she was like, hey, I found somebody that I love. My mom got married after like a few months of knowing her suitor. And, is like, well, he's already established. He's older than I am. He already has kids. And so she was looking at it from a stable perspective. And she was like, hey, he'll be a good father figure for my girls. We were about 4 and 6 at the time. And I want to say shortly after the marriage, the domestic violence started. the substance abuse started, the isolating her from her. We already had a small family, but isolating her from her mom and her brothers, and us being little girls just watching it, it turned ugly fast. And long story short, I watched my mom stay in this marriage for about 20 years. 20 years. And so what her goal was to provide us with the stability and the father figure. And it was, we didn't use these terms back then, but it was the most toxic environment that you could think of, because here she was trying to strive, but then she had an older man who was supposedly well established, pulling and sucking the life out of her. All the joy we just watched just drain right out of her being. But then we watch her snap out of it and be like, no, I'm going to school. She would get into these courses and try to advance herself. And then he would show up to the place and cussing and acting a fool and embarrassing her and causing her to lose her jobs and just quit because she didn't want to bring that kind of drama to her school or to her workplace. And we lived in very unstable financial environments. I can't tell you the number of schools that me and my sister went to from elementary to high. And it was just constant instability, domestic violence, and fear, and just waking up in the middle of the night as girls trying to fight this man off of our mom. We were so traumatized till any sound that we heard in the house, we were running, grabbing bats and weapons, because we felt like we had to protect our mom. And she would often tell us, no, go back to bed. I got it. Don't worry about it. But it was no way that we were going to sit up there and let him do whatever to my mom. And so witnessing that, first and foremost, it's not right. You might not know the names and the terms for all the stuff, but it doesn't feel good. It doesn't look good. You're stressed out going to school, worrying about what's going to happen to your mom while you're at school. And, that was my first, I guess, interaction with PTSD and trauma and all of those things. But one of my stepsisters molested me when I was a little girl. And
Wow.
it happened somewhere between like 6 and 9. I can't really gauge the actual age. But she was only a year older than me. So it wasn't like she was some predator. She probably was just exploring things. But I did experience that molestation. I did also, on my way to high school, get raped by a gentleman. I don't want to say gentleman, by a guy who was giving me a ride to school. I was going to be like one of those ushers or one of the people who hand out the flyers at the door of the assembly. And I was very responsible. I didn't want to let people down. And so I was like running late to get there, and I had to catch 2 buses. And so I'm on the bus stop, and, this ride pulls up. But, your parents tell you don't take no rides from strangers, and, get a cab if need be. But this was during the days where you could get a hitchhike, or what they call a hack in Baltimore. So you would just basically get a lift and not have to really pay for the ride. And so the guy pulled up, and it was a bus stop of maybe 6 people. And he's like, do you need a ride? Do you need a ride? And all of what my grandmother had told me, what my mom had told me about strangers and all this stuff is rushing through my head. But I also have this complex of like, I can't let these people down. Like, I'm the only usher at the door, and I've got to be there. And so I just make a decision. Okay, I'm going to take the ride. So I get in the ride, and we're on our way to my school, which was only maybe 15 minutes away in actuality. And I know my route to school. So we're going to school, get within maybe a mile of the school, and he veers off to a neighborhood. And even though I was very quiet, not outspoken at all, I just felt that in my gut, like, where are you going? The school is right there. I can literally see my school. And he was like, oh no, I forgot something at the house. I got to go grab it real quick, and then we'll head right back to school. And now I'm not initially thinking he's going to do something to me in that moment. I'm just annoyed because I'm like, listen, if I was going to be late, I could have stayed on the bus stop. Now you taking a detour. That was my initial like annoyance with the situation. Like he about to make me late. So we get around the corner to his townhouse or whatever. And I'm sitting in the car, like, go ahead in there and get whatever it is you need to get and come on. And so he comes over to the passenger side to open the passenger door. And now I'm like, oh no, like if he was just going to go in and grab something, cool. I don't need to come in there. And it was literally, you know how they say it was at that moment that I knew, oh, my belly was like, so I had no choice. He opens the door. He's like, yeah, come on inside. And I'm just like, oh my God. And I remember my grandmother saying, because she had been raped before and she told us about those things. And she said, if you're ever in a situation like that, try to remember anything about your surroundings, the car color, what he looks like, what he has on, the street sign, just anything. Because if you can make it out alive, then you'll be able to get the help that you need. So all this stuff is running through my head as I'm walking to the door of his townhouse. And so we get in there and I literally stand right up against the door, like the wall. I'm just, get your stuff, sir, and come on. And so he grabs my hand and pulls me toward his bedroom. Now, mind you, I was a virgin. So here's this grown man without asking anything, just acting out whatever it is that he wants to act out. And so we get into the room and, he starts to pull my pants down and all of that without being too graphic. And so he goes to penetrate and I make this wince because I've never been with a man before. And then he goes, oh, have you done this before? And I'm like, no. But yet he proceeds, of course. And so he goes through the motions of that, does, finishes up, and then he gets up and starts getting himself together. Of course, I'm pulling my stuff up. I'm ready to go. And we literally get back to the car and he acts like that did not just happen. He's doing the whole small talk, just like he was when he picked me up the first few minutes. Oh yeah, what grade are you in? And what's going on today at school? And literally acting like he didn't just violate me.
Wow.
I get to school and I still have to do this assembly. After this man has violated me, I still have to pass out things and smile at the door. And I was literally in an out-of-body experience. Like I literally felt like I was there, but I wasn't there. I don't remember anything about the day. And so I did not go home and tell my mom. I did not go home and tell my sister. I didn't tell anybody. And literally for about 2 months, this man kept trying to come to that bus stop and get me to get in that car with him. And now he knows that like I'm scared. So I get in the car, he takes me to the school. And now instead of going to his place, now he wants to perform acts behind the school in the where the bleachers are and all this stuff. And so I started thinking to myself, how can I avoid this guy? Like, how can I shake him? Because I was a creature of habit. He knew I was going to be on that bus stop at that certain time. And so I started trying to walk a few miles up to the next bus stops and trying to cut over and do all these things. But I literally would see him like stalking, like driving slow and still looking for me at different parts of the street. And so I had dealt with the molestation in my family. I had dealt with this rape from this stranger. And maybe about 8 months later, I get into my first romantic relationship. And it's my oldest kid's father now. And so I get into this domestic violence situation with him at 15 years old, when I don't know anything about life or relationships. And he would use the word as a weapon of all things.
Wow.
Trying to twist scripture to be what it was that he wanted me to do in certain instances. And I never forget, I was probably about 3 months pregnant with my oldest son at the time. And that was the first time he actually went from just being annoying and all that, what we think is love stuff, what is really control. And he literally choked me up off my feet in his mom's kitchen because I didn't want to do whatever or something that kind of made him mad. And he choked me up off the floor while I was pregnant with our child.
Wow.
And again, you got the hot tears streaming down, the hot tears. And I just remember a lot of my young adult life being muted. letting stuff happen to me and not even having the voice to say no, not even having the words to be like, stop, just stuff just happening. And I am the victim of it. And it didn't dawn on me till many, 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 many years later that, that was an ongoing theme in my life of just letting people do stuff, not wanting to cause any problems, not wanting to cause a stir, thinking about the issue that would be caused for them versus the issue that was going on with me. And so, my domestic violence went on for about 4 years with this guy. We have 2 kids together. And when you said what kind of really brought you to your knees, it was the fact that I had watched my mom go through all of this stuff. And here I was going through it kind of outside of her home because I was visiting his family's house when all this stuff was going on. But then how do I go home and tell my mom that I'm being beaten or choked or sodomized or whatever was going on when she couldn't even fight her own husband off of her? So I kept it to myself till I couldn't keep it to myself anymore. He did one of the unthinkable because he would do stuff, but he would never attack my face. And this day he went bananas and he attacked my face, pulled my hair out, did all this crazy stuff. And so then now I've got to ride home in his mom's car in the back seat with him. And he's telling me, shh, because he didn't want to get in trouble. And so I got the hot tears coming down. I just want to go home. I just want to go home. I don't care what you're saying to me right now. I'm just trying to get home. I get home and I literally, because my mom and my stepfather used to sleep on a pull-out sofa in the living room. And it was literally, I get through the door. I'm trying to rush past them because they got the pull-out out and they just chilling at that point. And I'm trying to hurry up and get by them with my son. I had Kenyon at the time. And get to my room because I just want to cry. I just want to take my clothes off. I just want to just be. And of course, my mom hadn't seen me all day, so she come busting in the room and she sees the bruises. And so of all people that she called my stepfather in there. Look at what this dude did to her. Blah, 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 blah. Of course, as a mom, you want some male to save us in the situation. And so she's like stunned because she didn't know what to do, and I'm crying at this point because now it's out in the open. I have been dealing with it by myself for years. And now I don't even have the words to say. Clearly, something went down, but I couldn't even verbalize like he did this, he did that, blah, blah, blah. And so my stepfather coming there, he's looking at the damage as if he hadn't caused similar damage. And so my mom's like, call the police. So they call the police and they finally, filed this report. Now, mind you, he had other babies' mothers who had violence with him, and he had a record for these incidents, but none with me at that point. And so that kind of started the whole running back and forth with the ex partes, running back and forth with the assault charges. And before the court date comes up, then he gets to me and manipulates the situation or tries to make me feel sorry for him because you can't take me away from my kids. I can't be locked up, blah, blah, blah. And again, not wanting to cause any problems for anybody, drop the charges or not show up. And that just continued to prolong this trauma because he was not going to change. He was a narcissist, I later found out. And so he was going to continue to do what he was doing because there were no consequences, right? He was staying with his mom and maybe she didn't know. Maybe she did. I don't know. God rest her soul. She's passed now. But it was just trauma from like 4 to almost 20. And I don't even know who I am, what my purpose is, how to be a mom yet. I'm winging it. And I just know that this kind of pain is not what God had for me. That's all I knew. I didn't know how I was supposed to get out of these situations or how to heal. But I just knew that according to that word, this was not what he had for my life in fullness. And so I literally at 19 had to go off grid and escape and quit my job and unlist my phone number and block this is before we could block, but like literally cut off everybody who had anything to do with him because he had a way of manipulating people. And he would make it seem like, oh, I just want to talk to her. It's no big deal. And then now I'm in his grips again. And so I had literally ran for my life with my 2 little babies. And I just had to figure it out. Now, granted, it was literally on the other side of town, but he wasn't going to pursue me but for so much, right? The places he knew, the phone numbers he had. And I literally would still be looking out the window, ducking and dodging, not going to the store, scared to go to work because of the mind games and the threats of what he had previously said. Here I was on the other side of town and was still terrified, still hiding, closed the Venetian blinds. I'm 19 years old. Like, why am I having to live like that and not having anyone to defend me, not having anyone to stand up and say, no, you will not. The courts wasn't doing nothing. The police wasn't doing nothing. My stepfather couldn't step in because he was just like him. And it's just like, listen, it can't be like this forever. Like, I don't think he put me here for this.
Right. Wow, Dr. Constance, that's a lot. That's a lot. And since a little girl, you witness your mom and she go through her abuse, then you turn around and even though you were young and you and your sister were close in age, you were molested by your own sibling, and then turn around, now you're in this relationship with this guy, and then he's abusive to you. So it's like all these different things happen back to back to back to back, all the way up till you're 19 years old, and then all of a sudden you have to go off the grid. Ooh, that's a lot to have to deal with. Well, look, Dr. Constance, we're going to go to a commercial break and come back because I want to know, how did you break free from that? And then, because I know our topic is talking about, the resilience and the significance and, togetherness. So I know we're getting ready to lead into that part to where you are going to tell us and share with us, how did you get to that point? But how did you make it happen? Because somebody is actually probably going through that right now, that's watching it and listening and tuning in, or they may know somebody and they're going to need to be able to have something that they can hold on to and say, hey, this is a way that I could probably help, this is, or you may be a point of contact for them or whatever. But I just want to make sure that we give the people what they can probably use. And so after the commercial break, we'll be right back. Okay.
Yep.
And tonight's show is sponsored by none other than GoFig Company. The website is www.gofig.com. Again, that is www.geauxfig.com. So if you're looking for a company to help you with your automated systems, website, graphics, as a matter of fact, now that I think about it, they just sent the email out today saying that they have 50% off for the next 72 hours on their landing page price. I think it's like $900 some, and it cuts it down into half. So if you're looking to get a landing page, book that spot. You don't necessarily have to go live now. They can go live later with your page, but that's a steal. So if you're trying to get your business and your brand up off the ground, I would recommend GoFig Company. All right, Dr. Constance. So let's talk about how we broke free. Like, how did you begin your healing journey from all of this and get to the point to where you are now?
I did not want trauma to be the thing that I am remembered for. And I did not want my kids to end up like we were, witnessing things and, seeing some victories, but they weren't lasting victories. And I literally went to those mothers in the church and I hung up under them because I was like, they know something that I don't know, right? Some of them were widows. They had adult children. They have gone through all the stuff that I have yet to experience. And so I started asking questions, and I've always kind of been an old soul anyway. Hey, I'm named after my grandmother, first and last name. And so I always find joy hanging around people who are more mature than I was. And so I would ask all these questions and just really, I'm kind of nosy anyway. And so I would just kind of be asking like, how did you do that? And where did you go? And, you know, they would tell me about their life's experiences, but it would always bring me back to the word. And so I'd be like, okay. And so my first Bible was given by one of the women in the church. And she is still, believe it or not, she is following me on social media to this day. This woman is in her 80s or 90s, and she inscribed that Bible for me. That thing is so raggedy. I still have it to this day. But the fact that she could have given me any gift, you know, she could have quoted something, but she knew that that was going to be the journey that took me from this broken place to walking in who I am to this day. She knew it was the word. And so she wrote me a sweet little message in there. I started highlighting and reading and just really digging in, watching Joyce Meyer on TV with my little babies. You know, we had a little routine. We would do our academics. You would watch Joyce Meyer. We would study. We would sing gospels. Like, I was working like part-time jobs. And so I had time to be able to really pour into myself and pour into my babies. I didn't have a man to be worried about. So I was just really focused on healing myself. And I want to say that, you know, Joyce Meyer was one of the people who I could watch on TV for free, who really came from a common sense, but a biblical perspective. And so even at 19, 20 years old, I was able to absorb the word in a practical way. Right. She gave you real life examples of how you could work that thing out. She would tell you what the word said, but then she would tell you how to actualize it in your everyday life. And so that really started me to realizing that I don't have to stay in this ugly space, and knowing that she had been abused as well. And just seeing her be on a platform like that and have a loving spouse to support her as she was the head of the church, right? And so I started being like, well, wow, women in leadership and, you know, getting over this trauma and standing up on their own 2 feet and helping other people and being unapologetic about it. Like, I literally got on my own 2 feet from watching TV where these televangelists were really just like, listen, I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Here's the word. If you want to change, this is how you do it. And so I was in literally every Wednesday night service, Saturday night service, Sunday night service, you know, Saturday picnics, everything they had, I was there, right? And I believe that it really changed the trajectory of how I saw myself, because they were always speaking life to me. They were always calling me beautiful and powerful and all of these things. And, you know, there is something to be said about, you know, the words that we speak out of our mouth and how they take shape, you know, and form, and how they become the new norm. And so before I could do it for myself, those women were speaking life to me. And I feel like that was really the root of the person that I became, you know, someone who sees other women and becomes a champion for them, whether they're in a broken space or they kind of know what they're doing, but they're missing a little something, or maybe they just need that sisterhood. I did not mind, you know, being and standing in the gap for women who look like me, who had been through some stuff and were kind of really pushing forward. But you kind of know, right? We could see it in the change. You kind of know. And, you know, I always encourage women, whether they're women in business or just moms or whomever, because I know what it feels like to be broken. I know what it feels like to want something more for your life, and you feel like it's so far off. You have so much to learn, and you don't have the male support, whether it's father figures, brothers, mates. You don't have that kind of support. And so you build up this independent woman thing. Right. I'm strong. I'm powerful.
Strong woman syndrome.
I'm going to get it done by any means necessary, and not taking anything away from your spiritual power, because a lot of us do believe. But because we have not seen the males in our space be the leaders and we can be the helpmates, it's like, well, listen, I saw my mom do it, so I guess I'm going to do it. And once I found my now husband, I found him when I was almost 20, or he found me. It was very hard for me to accept any kind of help from him, because I always thought that there was an ulterior motive. You know, my mom would always say, no guy's going to do anything for you without wanting something in return. And I was like, listen, I don't got nothing to give him in return, so I'm not even going down that road. You know what I mean? I'll do for myself. I'll struggle. I'll work overtime. I'll work 2 jobs. And I did. I worked 2, 3 jobs from time to time, where my mom would be my only babysitter. And she and I worked together as a team. You know, she would literally quit her jobs, come move in with me to watch my kids so I could work 2 jobs, because I just refused to just, you know, not progress. And aside from having my mom's support, aside from the spirituality side, Google was my friend. Listen,
Wow, come on now.
Google came out when I was about 18 or 19 years old. And I started Googling everything from how to get a bank account, how to get a credit card, how to get a driver's license, regular stuff that people seemingly know how to do or were taught. I had to figure it out through Google. And so I always tell people they owe me some money because they are in my story, you know. But that came from that personal development, that professional development, that again, I didn't know that's what it was called. I just knew if I didn't know it, I had to figure it out. And so the more information I got, the more I read about, the more I tried to apply to my life. And I was telling other people about it, my sisters, my cousins, you know, people at the church. As soon as I found out about something, how to fix your credit or how to save money or whatever it was, I was like, did you know that you could X, Y, Z? And I would be super excited about it, because it's like, I knew if I didn't know it, there was probably a lot of people like me who also didn't know it. And I wasn't thinking about having a business or charging nobody for the information. I just wanted everybody to come up like I was coming up.
Right, knowledge and power.
Absolutely. And I always tell people, you know, because I truly believe in investing in yourself, right? Because sometimes people don't take free stuff seriously when you really need to. And so I didn't have a lot of money to invest in workshops and seminars and things. But when I would get my little earned income tax credit or my daycare credits from a tax return, I would seek out workshops and things to go to, especially the ones that were like, you know, you could become a landlord, because I wanted to be a landlord so bad. I wanted to buy properties and put single moms in it. And I had never owned a home before. And so I would spend all of my money, my little tax return money, fixing up my credit and going to these workshops. And one guy told me, after I had so many inquiries on my credit, because I just wanted to be a landlord so bad, and nothing, I wasn't getting approved, and I didn't have the money cash to pay for these programs. And one guy, he said, listen, do you have your own home yet? I was about 22 at the time. And I said, no. And he was like, you need to stop having all these people pull your credit. He was like, because there's certain things that you got to do first. Like, you literally, before you can put somebody else in a home, you've got to understand what that process is like. You've got to do the work. You've got to put money aside and sacrifice to save. You've got to fix your credit, right? You've got to be stable enough on your job for at least 2 years to be able to be considered stable as far as the lenders are concerned. So this man gave me free advice in this workshop that I had been paying for. And everybody, it seemed like the whole room was spinning around me, because as soon as they said, oh, for $5,000 at the end of the workshop, I'm sitting up there like, I don't even have lunch money. Listen, where am I supposed to get this $5,000 to start this program from? And it seemed like people was just writing the checks and eating it up and just, yeah, and all rah, rah. And I was sitting there so defeated, because it was like, I just knew based on the infomercial that said you didn't have to have no money and you didn't have to have no credit, and you could come in there and flip homes and do all this stuff. And me being young and ignorant, right? But that one man who didn't owe me anything just told me, like, do the work on you. And then you know what the process is like. And then, yes, when you get that first home, it sets you up for equity, right? You're paying the balance down. Hopefully you're in a good neighborhood that continues to appreciate as well. So with those 2 things alone, you free up equity. Then you pull that equity out and you can use it to start a business. You could use it to get a second property. You can use it to invest. And that was free nuggets. And I was just like, so all these years I've been coming in here, spending my little tax return money, and this all I needed to know. But I was glad that somebody was like, stop, just stop, right? And again, it made me want to be that resourceful person for somebody that I see spinning their wheels doing the wrong thing. And all you got to do is just do, and you'll be fine. And that's why I always have this common sense. Yeah, you learn the strategies, but this common sense, I call it SRT, significance, resilience, and togetherness. I'm not just going to talk at you because I know what it feels like to be insignificant, to feel seen and not heard. I know what it's like to be at the bottom, and you got to keep picking yourself up every 5 minutes, every couple of years. You keep getting hit. And of course, I know what it's like to feel alone. You're hiding, right? You're hiding from the traumas. You're hiding from the people that's coming to hurt you. And I always have this mentality where let's, we. So that's where the SRT comes from. It comes from trauma. It comes from me saying, I never want to see another one of my sisters in a room feeling insignificant. I don't care what it's about. I'm not going to have it. I'm going to bring love and light into that space with her, and we're going to do it together. And if she tells me that she's just gone through something, whether it's health related, relationships, money, business ownership, entrepreneurship, whatever, I've probably been there, done that, got the t-shirt, sis. So what we about to do?
Right.
You're not about to do this by yourself. So that is literally the core of who I am. And I will forever be a champion for what I call SRT. It's not going anywhere. And any purpose that I have, any services that I offer, any products, any things like that is stemming from that.
Wow, powerful. That's powerful story, especially knowing that all that trauma, like you said, it all stemmed from trauma. And it's not like you just went through one thing, you went through a few significant things, right?
Yes.
That kind of just, I mean, I can't even imagine, having to go back to back to back to back like that. And then just trying to find a place where it's like, okay, I done had enough.
Yeah.
Where do I go now? But I thank God that just listening to you say you went back to those elders. They have wisdom. They've gone through some stuff. They can tell you some stuff. They can teach you some stuff. They can even probably preach some stuff into you, right? To get you to where you are today. And then to hear that you said that you used to, even though it's falling apart, you still have that Bible, and that one elder is following you still. That says a lot because, by her following you, she know where you came from.
Yes.
Right. Know what you've been through. And she's watching your journey right before her eyes. Mm-hmm. Right. And she can say, you know what? That's a woman that I poured into.
Mm-hmm. And it's about three of them. It's about three of them. But she is the first one at that first church where I was so frustrated at them little babies. And she was so calm and peaceful. And she bought a brand new Bible. She didn't pull one out the house. She bought me one, inscribed it, read it to me, and gave it to me. Her name is Apostle Zelda, and she is still with us. And then I went on to another church who I had another elder, Elder Sylvia. She is still alive and on my Facebook page. And then I have Pastor Tracy. She was another one. So I have these women alongside my mom who I love and respect. I lost my grandmother when I was 10. So I always kind of had that, I want my own grandmother type. Mm-hmm. And these women were and are still that for me.
Wow, powerful. And then the part that you mentioned about, because I remember watching, these televangelists on TV too, when we couldn't go to church, and my parents were always working and things like that, but we could turn on a TV and we would be able to watch it right there on TV. So, it's just like, even now we got social media, that you can't tell me that you cannot find God somewhere. He's always around you, but if you wanted to watch somebody else talk about him and boast about him, it's right here on social media. It's on the internet. It's everywhere, So powerful. So I want you to tell us, Dr. Constance, now that you got this SRT, and have life together at this point. And, when I read your bio earlier, you got these companies. Like, let the people know, like, even in the midst of your trauma and all the stuff that you've gone through, now you out here doing great things. You're doing big things, and people need to know that. That's your testimony. People need to know how you are doing great things by helping other people, who have been in, who are going probably in your shoes, were in the shoes that you were in the past, but now you're helping them get to the point to where, they're striving for that SRT. So let us know, what are you doing? What you have going on. We want to know what you got going on.
A lot. I have a lot going on, but it really goes back to my passion, which is helping people or empowering them to live the life they want without worrying about money. Right. And some of it is actual worry. Like, I don't know where my next meal is going to come from. I don't know how I'm going to pay these bills, after the pandemic happened or whatever it is. But it could also be just a concern, right? You work, you save money, you have some things going on, and you don't want to make the wrong decisions with your next moves. And so unless you're going to stay up Googling like I did and have all these notes in your phone and in your notebooks everywhere, you want to be able to say, I have a girl, I have a guy, I have someone that I could bounce ideas off of and get to the answer a lot quicker, right? And so I believe that it doesn't have to be broke, busted, and disgusted worry, but it could just be, I don't want to mess this up. I'm getting a promotion, or I'm getting a raise, or I sold my house. I have this money. I don't know where to put it. I don't know what to do with it. And I don't want to get scammed. And so when I say, live the life you want without worrying about money, that is literally how I'm living my life. And I want you to be able to do the same. I remember being broke, busted, and disgusted in the hood and eating oodles and noodles and hot dogs and baked beans every day. I understand what that feels like. And not that I eat steak every day, because I don't even eat red meat. It's just the fact that if I wanted to, I could. Right? If I wanted to choose to go out to have dinner with my husband or cook a nice wholesome meal at the house, I could. And what that represents for me is options. Options. It's my favorite word besides God. My favorite word in the dictionary is options, because how many know when you don't have a lot of education or a lot of resources or a lot of family or, positive influences, you do not feel like you have options in life. And if you're able to get something done, say get that first apartment or get your first car or whatever, more likely than not, you did not go in there and they were like, take your pick. Which apartment do you want? Right? You've got all this infinite income. No, if you probably had to scratch and claw to be able to get that opportunity. And then when you got it, you were like, whew. Now I got that done. Now, how can I get a better apartment, or how can I live in a better neighborhood, or how can I buy my first house? It's always levels to it. But you were so grateful for that opportunity that you did get, but it also made you thirst for options. I don't want you to just tell me this is the only place you can get, right? Or this is the only car on the lot after it took us 9 hours and 10 lenders to get you approved. Look, my hand up. I know I'm not the only person who's been in that situation where you needed a car and you went somewhere and your credit score was not the highest, and you had to sit there all day long, trying to get right, hoping and praying that one of those lenders, you didn't care if it was 99%, somebody was going to let me get a car today, right? And so that's not options, but you can grow to that place. And so I am a financial consultant, started out as a financial coach back in 2009. I did get my life and health license, which was my first interaction in the financial services field. I caught on to that stuff really fast because I was already Googling stuff on my own and figuring it out and getting the general basis of how money worked. But then when I got hooked up, one of my good friends basically recruited me into a business opportunity where I was able to learn and improve my life while I was improving the lives of the people I cared about. And I never looked back. From January 2009, I progressed from a coach to an insurance agent to a consultant, to now being a licensed financial advisor, to recently over, I think it was December, I was able to receive, like you, a great honor and get my honorary doctorate in philosophy for financial education and economic advancement for entrepreneurs. I really, really have Black entrepreneurs at my core, right? Because I had to Google everything until even how to start a business. And once I figured it out, I started helping other people start businesses. So that was actually one of my first businesses was financial services. And I also had a business consulting company as well, because everything I learned, I was teaching everybody else, and I wasn't charging them thousands of dollars either. I think my fee might have been $100. And I was literally doing websites and filing paperwork with the state of Maryland and doing everything that they needed because I knew they didn't have a lot of money, but they had this passion or they had this goal or they had this talent. And they was like, well, I need to legalize it. So which way do I go? And I would literally do everything for them to get them up and running. And like I said, everything that I do is geared around you living the life you want without worrying about money. So, I am now moving into a space of about to launch my own investment advisory firm. It is a big, big deal for me because I get to incorporate everything that I know and love and help Black women entrepreneurs. That is my core, my heart, my heart. Black women entrepreneurs to not just live the life that they want, but leave a significant legacy. Right. So you leaving assets, not liabilities, right? You leaving businesses, you leaving an awesome, amazing name that it took you your whole life to build up to be that example for your kids and your grandkids. So you get to leave an awesome legacy of your name and who you are, but you also get to leave life insurance. You get to leave homes and businesses. You get to leave stuff that maybe wasn't left for you.
Powerful.
But you did it.
That's right. Wow. Well, look at that. You're doing some great things, and congratulations on your new thing that you're getting ready to do. That's awesome. That's awesome. I know I see all that stuff because I know you always put your information out, but how can people have been tuning in and watching you? And for those of you that are just not tuning in, just not coming in, you got to go back and watch the replay from the beginning because Dr. Constance Craig-Mason has been through some stuff, I'm telling you. But man, all I can say is, but God, because
But God,
she had these women elders around her, praying for her, teaching her, pouring into her. And now she's at a place where she's doing great things in this world. So, Dr. Constance, can you tell us how can people reach out to you?
Absolutely. I am all over social media, all the major platforms as C. Craig-Mason, my first initial last name, C. Craig-Mason. And my website is Concierge FG. So it stands for Concierge Financial Group.com.
Awesome. And do you have any events or any other things that you have coming up besides launching the extension of your business?
Yeah. So April is a really, really busy month. It is Financial Literacy Month. And so I do a lot of virtual talks and some in-person talks where I teach financial concepts, at various events. I always try to post about them. So if there's a link, you can just follow me on social media to get those opportunities to show up. I've done quite a few books, collaborative books. All of the books have been collaborative. About 10 books in the last 2.5 years, mostly with Black women entrepreneurs, like Dr. Cheryl Wood and Simone Walden, which you probably know some of these ladies. And then more recently, over the last 2 years since the pandemic, my husband and I got together and we wanted to be helpful, to Black entrepreneurs, but also to Black families. And so we put together these 2 book projects called Money Talks, Uncut Conversations with Power Couples about love, money, and entrepreneurship. And when I say power couples, we're not talking about Beyonce and Jay-Z and Stedman and Oprah and all those people. We're talking about an acronym that we created for POWER, which stands for passionate and powerful and resilient and open-minded, witty and willing, engaging, ethical people, resilient. Like, to us, it was people like us, basically. And we all shared our stories in these anthology books. It was 2 volumes. Well, actually, I got 2 of them right here. So it's a total of 34 Black married couples in these 2 books. And literally everything from pastors to engineers to nurse practitioners. We have 9 veterans in the projects. We have just anybody who's doing anything amazing, running their families, running their homes, giving back, being ambassadors, advocates. Like, these people are my family. And I met every last one of them on social media. And you would have thought that we've been together for 20 years.
Wow.
We put these book projects together to be a light, to be inspiration, to give them platforms to, of course, meet and network and get other new clients. And we didn't want to just stop there. We said, hey, these are Black married couples, but they're also families and single women and mothers and dads out there. And so we spun the book projects into 2 conferences. And when I say we had over 165 Black subject matter experts at our 2 conferences in the pandemic, these people were helping with everything from spirituality to mental health and wellness, of course, finance and relationships and entrepreneurship, and just a village of for us and by us. We're going to do it again, of course, next year with the conference. It's called the Let's Keep It Real Conference. Our first year, we had a lot going on. We had main stage speakers, breakout sessions, comedy. We had DJ to move your body. We had a lot going on. And then this past year, earlier this year, we did it in panel style. So we had live panels. People ate it up. It was so much fun, so organic. And for our relationship panel, we had the co-authors from the book to be the relationship experts so that they could get that exposure. We did make #1 bestseller for both projects, so we were excited about that. And here's what is significant about, I've been in a bunch of collaborative books, but it was my first time with my husband, right? And a lot of these co-authors, it was the first time with their spouses. They had been authors before, but not with their spouses, and certainly not to #1 with their spouses. And so we felt some sense of enjoyment and pride to be able to give these people opportunity with these busy lives that they have to come together, do a chapter together with your loved one, and then have that thing go out for the world to see and make #1. And you could leave that legacy. So when your kids and grandkids are like, who was grandma so-and-so and who was grandpa so-and-so, you have something tangible that they can go and read from your own words what you felt about your marriage and how you raised your family. Listen, significance.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Congratulations on you, both your books and also your conference. I did attend the last one.
Yes.
So it was amazing. So thank you so much for what you and your husband are doing to help build other people up, especially people of color. So I truly, truly thank you for that. And keep in touch. You know, I know we're near the end of the show. Those of you who are looking to connect with Dr. Constance and want to reach out to her, you can go to her website. You can follow on social media as well. And her website is www.concergefg.com.
Yes.
And believe me, she's a woman that she will respond to you. You know, I know there's some people they take forever to respond to you, but she's very communicative. She loves, you know, to have hands on with the people that she come in contact with. So please reach out to her, especially if you're trying to look at how you want to get your financial wealth together. So thank you so much, Dr. Constance, for being my special guest tonight. And I look forward to staying connected. And those of you who are just now tuning in, go back, catch the replay, and you send it to your friends, your grandmother, whoever. And just make sure that you know that every Thursday, the Dr. Yolanda Jerry Show airs at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And remember, if nobody has told you that they love you today, know that I love you, but most of all, God loves you. Take care, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you.